August 21st, 2020, the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative was announced, a way for Scott Cawthon to give back to the Fnaf community. It was made up of a selection of talented developers across the Fnaf fandom. These games would become official fan games, and was an exciting time for Fnaf fans. Kane Carter, the creator of Pop Goes, he'd be working on Pop Goes Evergreen, which is a complete reimagining of the original Pop Goes. Teasers that we've seen look great so far, so I'm excited for this one. He's known for games like Pop Goes Arcade 1 and 2, and Pop Goes. Jonachrome, the creator of the One Night at Flumpty series, they would be developing One Night at Flumpty's 3, or Fnaf 3, and was the third game in the series and the finale. Nixon, the creator of the Joy of Creation series, would be making the Ignited collection, a new take on the Joy of Creation, with new mechanics and a darker tone. Fnaf, who would be the developer of Fnaf Plus, a darker reimagining of Fnaf 1, known for his games like Porkchop's Horror Show, A Shadow over Freddy's, and another Fnaf fan game, Open Source. And lastly, Emil Mako, the creator of the Five Nights at Candy series. He would be working on Five Nights at Candy's 4, and he's responsible for the Candy's games 1 to 3, as well as working on Fnaf Fur currently, a 2D game in the Candy's universe. Today, I'm doing something completely different to my normal content. It's my 100th video, and I wanted to do something special. I'll be talking about the game from the fanverse that I was most excited for, Fnaf Plus. I won't be talking about the cancellation in detail because this is more of a positive video than a negative one. My goal for this video will just be a retrospective on the history and, more importantly, what the game meant to me. So we'll start off with some background knowledge. Back in August 28th of 2020, I learned of the title. I was a Fnaf fan back in 2014 when it came out. I sort of forgot about Fnaf just after Sister Location. I moved on to other franchises, so I wasn't really there for the pizzeria simulation hype. Then on that day in 2020, I started learning about Fnaf Plus, but it wasn't until Freddy's design was revealed that I got really interested. All of a sudden, I remembered all about Fnaf and went into a deep dive in the lore. It had changed so much since I'd left, I didn't even know what Help Wanted existed. It was from there that I found the VHS Fnaf series. It awoke a love of horror inside me that I didn't have. It reminded me why I actually loved Fnaf in the first place. Slowly, more and more Fnaf Plus teasers would release, and my excitement grew. Admittedly, when the Chica design came out, I was taken aback for about a day or two, but then I realised that was the point. It's a darker reimagining. Rather than trying to make them look kid-friendly, they all look broken down as a twisted reflection of the state of the pizzeria. The Plus designs are now my favourite designs for the Fnaf 1 animatronics, taking aspects of the Withered and fusing it with Fnaf 1. Fnaf Plus Foxy is easily my favourite version of Foxy in any Fnaf media, hands down, but more on that in the design section. Alright, let's get into the video. Starting off with the history. During 2020, Phil had created a game called Another Fnaf Fan Game, Open Source. It released on June 2nd, 2020. It was a remastered Fnaf 2, but completely customizable by anyone. It featured full animation and new mechanics. Phil made it open source so that it could possibly inspire others to get into game development with a nice starting point. The Fnaf 2 location was also changed design-wise. It had cool details like using a Bonnie mask instead of Freddy's, and that would be where with the Bonnie's face would have gone. The scrapped toxic meter from the original Fnaf 2 made a return in this game. However, not long after its release, the game was taken off GameJolt at the request of Scott Cawthon. But this would not be the end of Phil and Fnaf. Phil would send Scott an email detailing the flaws he had with Fnaf 1 through 6. Scott offered Phil a proposition. He gave Phil the opportunity to remake Fnaf 1 in his own vision and be a part of the fanverse. And so the story of Fnaf Plus began. Fnaf Plus was announced on August 28th, 2020 as part of the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, a mere 7 days after the fanverse was unveiled. The developer would be Phil Morg, also known as Fnaf. This would be Fnaf 1, but in a much darker focused lens. Fnaf 1 if it were imagined by Phil. It was an awesome concept. The coolest part is the fact it was an officially licensed remake, licensed by Scott Cawthon himself. A Twitter page was set up shortly after and an eventual YouTube channel. The channel would feature VHS-style teasers spanning over a few years. Connection Error was the first. It released on September 12th, 2020. We got our very first look at the game's tone, as well as a look at Bonnie. Again, I will go over this more in the teaser section of the video, so stay tuned. On January 19th, 2021, a trio of videos were uploaded, those being Routine Check, our first look at Freddy, and a little bit of Bonnie, a video showing Freddy running through some routines, and it also features a reference to the original Fnaf 1 trailer. Quiet Hours, which had our first full look at Bonnie. Cheek was only seen shortly and obscured by shadows, and it was set during a time when the animatronics weren't performing. It was just normal daytime idle routines. Stage performance, our very first look at Chica and the Cupcake. It was a full song performance, which was really cool to see. I've always wanted to see that in FNAF. There was also a secret fourth video, which text and number glitches scattered throughout the other 3 videos could be pieced together to make a full URL. This would lead to a video titled Night Mode, a video from Foxy's point of view. More on that later. That video would be officially uploaded on the 20th of January 2021, just one day after the 3 videos released. Teasers and dev streams would be happening throughout the years, whether it be images or demos or frequently asked questions. There was also a paste bin made by Phil himself that he would update every now and then, and you could read with facts about development over time. We also had at least 2 GIFs, one of Freddy breathing and one of the dining hall, and all the different camera statics. Phil made a bunch of camera static screens, so it would never feel the same. From memory, I think it numbered over 100 unique frames. Starting off with connection error. We see the new dining hall for the very first time. The camera pans left and right before getting some interference. We then get our very first look at Bonnie, just standing. It pans a few more times with no movement from Bonnie, until it's gone. The camera pans right all the way, starts panning left until it's violently snapped into the direction of Bonnie's face. The camera cuts out with the word connection error, leaving us with our very first look at the Plus map. Far bigger than the original FNAF 1 map and sporting a new layout, and then cuts to black. And we move on to the next teaser. Routine check. First is Wake Up, which shows the stage lights turning on and Freddy waking up and warming up for the rest of the routines. The next is Look Around. We see Freddy looking around at the stage and his bandmates, testing his eyes, head and body movement. The next is Audience Greeting, where Freddy does the classic FNAF 1 Freddy wave from the original FNAF 1 trailer. A nice little reference. The next routine is Small Talk, a routine where Freddy makes small talk. We don't hear any voice as this is just a routine check. Bonnie is staring right at the camera despite not facing that direction before. The last routine is Friendly Laugh, and it's anything but friendly. Next tape is Quiet Hours. It shows a time when the animatronics aren't performing and are just running through some basic ambient routines. There's a bit of chatter all around, and someone actually walks past the camera at one point, which was a really nice touch because it shows that it's active. It all seems alright until the camera person turns towards Chica. It immediately gets some interference and the person points the camera away. Freddy now has his eyes closed for a few seconds before opening them suddenly, as if he's actually waking up. Bonnie is also eerily staring at the camera with his eyes piercing. The tape ends as the camera person puts the camera down. I actually really enjoyed this tape, seeing what Freddy's was like during the day, and the next tape was even better. Last but not least, we have stage performance, last of the 3, in which we see Chica performing front and centre instead of Freddy. She sings a song called Follow Me by Bjorn Lin, and it's really good and was a great idea to show the band actually performing. Always wanted to see the stage performance by the Fazbear band. Something interesting to note when I first watched it, I vaguely remember when it fades to black, a flickering neon red plus symbol appearing in the 5 minutes of Freddy's written above it. Yet, that never happened. I have the original video saved and it never appeared. I actually really enjoyed this part. It's a really nice pitch they used for the song, and yes, I know it was meant to be scary, but it actually sounded quite pleasant. Now for my personal favourite, Night Mode. Night Mode is a very unique tape compared to the rest. It's from the point of view of Foxy. We know this because we're inside the mask. The eye patch is down. A cool detail about the eye patch would be the eye is actually much smaller than the eye socket, and so is the eye patch itself, which is really cool. Foxy wakes up, in quotations. The area is glitching with lots of glitch noises. He looks around the cove, sees nothing but curtains. He hears a familiar laugh, Freddy's laugh. Foxy opens the curtain, tilts his head, and his eye socket flips up, filling the silent room with a pressure sort of noise. It's like a really deep, droning wind. Freddy is standing there, and Foxy's vision blinks out as Freddy laughs again. When his vision returns, Freddy is gone, and his view is now red. We can hear breathing, and it slowly builds until he's hyperventilating. He starts experiencing visions. He sees exit signs, all the animatronics, bits and pieces from the previous videos flash before his eyes. He begins to run under the cove. more and more visions appear broken up by the occasional Foxy's view whilst running. You would assume that he was running towards the office, but then we see Masking the Marionette appear twice. Eventually the visions end with a missing person fades to black, and after a very few seconds we hear crickets. Foxy's breathing sounds exhausted and he looks towards the exit sign. The video ends. All this paints Foxy to be a very, very important character in Plus. Something is clearly very wrong with him. He seems to be suffering the most than all the other animatronics. He's even having full-on panic attacks. When I first watched the video, I thought he was going to rush the night card, as I said, but instead he completely subverted my expectations and went towards the exit. Interestingly enough, this seems to mirror the idea for the Night 4 gameplay. More on that later. An interesting piece of trivia: the breathing heard in night mode is exactly the same breathing the protagonist from Breaking and Entry has when they enter parts and service room, particularly that part. Next up is the biggest teaser of the bunch, Breaking and Entering. This teaser is over 13 minutes long and there's going to be a lot to cover. It opens with some views of the cameras, cycling them with some droning ambience. It cuts off suddenly and now we're from the point of view of a person with a camera. This is our protagonist of the video. I'll be referring to them as Protag when referring to them by name. The Protag has clear intentions of breaking into the pizzeria. The pizzeria looks super worn down, the neon Freddy Fazbear's Pizza sign is flickering, barely functional. The Protag walks towards the entry and sees a Freddy Fazbear cardboard cutout beside the door. They look at the cutout, then towards the door. Camera cuts out and we hear the iron grate being forced open. The Protag starts heading in. We then cut towards parts and service where fragments of a note flickers on the screen, and once the flickering stops, a blur can be seen moving past the exit. More on that later. We're back in the Protag's point of view, now at the dining hall. The room is very dark. Fortunately they did bring a flashlight, so that's good. They flip open a book, and it has a clearly misspelt version of Paranormal Investigators with a Z, because everything is cooler with a Z at the end. The next page has File 6, Late Night at Freddy Fazbear's written on it. On the next page is the word Mysteries, also misspelt, and has the mysteries the Protag wants to solve. Robots moving at night, behind the pirate's curtains, guards on live bait, very suspicious. What's in that huge box? All of these feature little illustrations next to them. The next page shows the equipment they brought, the flashlight, Dad's camcorder, and ghost detector. They're clearly very excited about the ghost detector, shown by them excitingly zooming in and out of that section. The Dad's camcorder section is a brilliant way to make the Protag feel more real, because you have a connection. This Protag has a dad. The last part of the page shows that the first place to be explored is the show stage. The camera cuts out to a scene of the show stage from the perspective of the camera, and there is a distorted voice in the background. About 15 seconds in, Bonnie's head slowly turns towards the camera. It blanks out, for 2 frames, Bonnie is looking directly at the camera, and then he resets to his normal position. The distorted voice is actually a reversed phone call, and it reads as follows. Notice to staff: due to the events that have transpired this evening, all scheduled character shows and events are to be put on hold indefinitely. Please limit any and all interactions between patrons and the main cast to only reliable and well-tested performance routines. As for your own safety, always keep in mind the following guidelines regarding staff interactions with the animatronic cast. Don't stand in front of or directly behind cast. Don't make direct eye contact with cast. Don't stand on elevated platform used by cast. Don't make any sudden movements whilst in view of cast. Don't allow any foreign body parts near cast. Don't touch, move, push, pull, manipulate or tamper with cast in any way. Don't attempt to clean or inspect any unusual material left on cast. It is in the best interest that everyone working at this establishment to follow these guidelines, as we cannot afford to decommission any more characters at this current time. Lastly, if there's any questions or issues regarding this notice, make sure to get in contact with our intern to resolve them. Thank you, management. The video cuts back to the Protag as they're walking towards the main stage. From here you can see just how huge the animatronics really are. We also get a really good look at their designs. All of them have their eyelids closed except Chica has her larger eye open. Due to not having eyelids for that eye, the Protag moves their camera and flashlight around, looking at all the 3 of the main band. They then get on the stage for a closer look at Chica, and then it groans under their weight, showing that the stage is also really poorly manufactured, just enough weight to support the animatronics. They grab their ghost detector and begin to use it. It's very loud and cycles through a few songs, including the Toreador March, and then settles on a song called Goodbye to Spring by Josh Woodward. This song will be very prevalent in this video. The Protag looks away from Chica, shakes the ghost detector, they look up and Chica has clearly moved, though only slightly. She's looking right at the protagonist, and the protagonist steps back. perhaps a little spooked, and moves on to the next section. We cut to the door the protag broke to enter the building, and it closes. Meanwhile, text flashes across the screen, and if put together it forms an extract of Mask of the Red Death, a short story by Edgar Allan Poe. When the text is put all together as a solid image, it reveals the words "Wake Up" at the bottom of the screen. The door fully closes, and we're back to the protag. Now at step 2, Pirate's Cove. This is probably one of my favourite scenes in the teaser. With a small drawing of a parrot in the bottom left corner of the page, they turn on their flashlight as a deep droning noise plays. On the floor there are stains leading to Pirate's Cove. The protag looks at the curtains and just barely illuminates a bit of the out of order sign. We only see an arm, though we now know based on a poster that it was a cutout of Foxy before it was out of order. And the today's showtime, its number panels are blank. We also see a single speaker. The protag takes a very few hesitant steps towards the curtains. The thing I really love about this video is the storytelling through the environment and the protag's body language. This scene alone builds a really sinister tone for Foxy. This is one of 2 times a droning plays, and both of those scenes involve Foxy. The protag takes a few breaths, then slowly opens the curtains. It's pitch black in there. The torch has no effect on the darkness inside the cove. They zoom in to try and see at least something before the static cuts into the camera feed. Visual glitches can be seen and auditory glitches can be heard. The protag shakily pulls out their ghost detector. They're clearly shaken by this ordeal. Another thing I love about this video, the minute details shown through body language despite not ever seeing the protag's physical body. It's just conveyed through the camera. Absolutely awesome, and I love it. They're shaking quite a bit, but it slowly steadies. The ghost detector picks up another bit of music, same song as before. So far this is actually in the order of the real song. We cut to a Freddy poster in the west hall corner. The numbers in the right hand corner are mixed with letters that spell out routine checklist in 3 parts. Here's some pictures of them, you can pause and read them if you wish. The poster does the classic Freddy ripping off his head pose before immediately returning to its original posture. Another cool Fnaf one. Next up, the protag visits the security office, though for now they're walking down a hallway towards the office. We see posters referencing the Fazbear Frights books with Fetch and Lonely Freddy. There's a subtle reference to Into the Pit, but was later explained to be an Easter egg in-game, a ghost Bonnie that would appear in the ball pit. We also very clearly see the one and only Springtrap and the Masky the Marionette giving gifts, and a very interesting poster of a bunch of grey children being offered cake by a rabbit, and a single girl in full colour watching from afar. My guess is that's a representation of Charlotte Emily. A rules poster now called Help-He's Safety Tips can also be seen. The protag looks to the left and sees a camera. They zoom in towards it and then put their camera down. I'd say that camera is actually the one that was broken for connection error, so I'd say connection error might take place on the same night. We're now in the point of view of that camera as it pans to the right. What's odd is there's no guard to do that. Something else is watching. Text from a conversation between a child and supposedly William Afton or Masky. After the camera pans all the way to the right, you notice something's been following the protagonist the entire time. All of it. More on that later. The protag is now in the security office. They turn on their flashlight and look around. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, including a Mr. Cupcake statue, a reference to the Fnaf 1 cupcake in the original office, Masky's mask on the wall, a Bloom Boy figure, cups and scrunched up papers, plus version of the Let's Celebrate poster as well. A fair few drawings including Pirate's Cove twice. One of them gives us a very basic look at Foxy, the other we only see a hook from within the darkness. The fan is still there, and an old phone. All the equipment has seen better days. The drawings are actually doing a lot better than the equipment. Cobwebs are rampant in this office, no cleaners have been hired, clearly. Anyway, the protag turns off the flashlight and grabs the ghost detector. This time is different. It doesn't pick up a song, and there's alternating red lights on the right of the detector. They flash on the right and then the left and so on. Droning is heard once again, and a sound reminiscent of a heart monitor is heard. It flatlines, and the detector's light settles on the left side. Protag looks to the left and is greeted by a blanky, milky white eye staring back at them. This spooks them, so they run out of the office. Child laughter is heard and they slam a door shut. They look at the room they ended up in. It's the parts and service room. A dead end. Lots of broken shelves and parts on shelves are seen. A jar of eyes staring in multiple directions and an old Freddy costume that has eerily human-like. The protag walks towards the Freddy suit and the head falls off, revealing that these eyes were indeed human. The reason the building was so dark The cameras weren't watching, and the office was empty. The night guard was dead before the protag entered. Their fate was sealed the moment they entered the building, from the very moment the entrance door closed. The ghost detector picks up the same song before, except this time it's the chorus. It's almost mocking them. Lyrics are as follows. Sleep, little girl, because when you wake it's going to be a different world. Everything will change. Everything will change. This door's slamming shut. It's going to catch you if you're ready or you're not. So close your eyes and say goodbye to spring. This could be likened to the lives of the children possessing the animatronics' final moments. They would sleep, only to wake up to a different world. Everything changed for them all. The doors slamming shut are all the opportunities and the lives they could have had. Unfortunately, it caught them despite not being ready. Something they never should have had to be ready for. They closed their eyes and said goodbye to their lives that could have been. The next chapter now confined to machinery made to entertain others, barely functioning. And now they're sharing this with the protag, who we know didn't die, at least not by Foxy or Marsky. We'll never know their true fate. The camera in the corner is now on. We know this due to the red light that wasn't there before. The door finally gets open and the protag almost falls over. They turn around and catch their breath, looks up and sees an empty doorway? Until the puppet, or Marsky, staring at them before the camera, flashes on the screen and it cuts out. The last thing we see is from the view of the camera on its side, the protag nowhere to be seen. Foxy is standing motionless in the doorway before disappearing entirely, and a hook symbol is made using an equal sign, a V, and a question mark, and that's seen on the top right. A pirate hook in letters and symbols